Picture this. It's the year 1540 in southwestern Germany. I am a cobblestone street, and you are walking all over me. A theologian, a Catholic theologian appropriate for the time. And as you're walking on me, suddenly a thunderous explosion rocks your entire body, and mine. It knocks you completely off balance, and you look over to see green plumes of smoke emerging from an inn down the street. And it just so happens that a Protestant necromancer sodomite caused that explosion. And that is exactly what this video is about. The true story of Dr. Johann Georg Faust, the most evil doctor to ever live. It goes well beyond just blowing up his meth lab. This guy's entire life is legend. Now back to 1540. Authorities break down the door of the inn and find the mutilated corpse of Johann Georg Faustus, a doctor equally controversial as he was renowned. The doctor's body was found in a grievously mutilated state, which makes sense given the explosion, and witnesses also claim his body kept turning to face down towards hell, the earth, every time that someone would try to turn the body over. It repeatedly faced back down. The fate of Dr. Faust was viewed by some as divine justice and others as the inevitable conclusion of a perilous bargain struck with the devil himself. You've heard of making a deal with the devil. That's this guy. So who exactly was Dr. Faust, and why would his demise be viewed through the lens of faith? It makes sense when you give the time. And why was Dr. Faust run out of towns all across Germany before his death? This man's story has inspired much folklore. For example, the devil went down to Georgia. Charlie Daniels Band!
And the devil jumped up on a hickory stump and said, "Boy, let me tell you what, I guess you didn't know it, but I'm a fiddle player too."
Some of the story from the CW Supernatural, which is an excellent show, and just general superstition about surrounding crossroads and making a deal with the devil or a demon. That is the origin of all of that, Dr. Faust. Dr. Johann Georg Faust was consumed by an insatiable hunger for every scrap of wisdom that this world could offer. A German scholar of the Renaissance, he spent the turn of the 16th century hunting down any piece of knowledge he could find. Whether this information was taught in an institution, a university, a divinity, theologian type shit, if the information was found in an ancient grimoire guarded by necromancers, or something even long buried by superstition. Dr. Faust was very interested in all of this. And for someone so influential both then and now, even the most basic facts of his life lie somewhat shrouded in mist. But there is plenty of evidence for a historical Faust. The evidence for his real existence is overwhelming. His life was no mere legend. This was a flesh and blood man whose exploits were documented by dozens of contemporary witnesses all across Germany. His birth is also shrouded in mystery. A 1587 chronicle claims he was born in the small Thuringian town of Roda, while in Baden-Württemberg. All right, guys, it's Germany. That's where my family's from. I'm a bit Faustian, let's be honest. The others are from Beirut and Syria. The town of Knittlingen, I'm not gonna say that correctly, is home to the Faust Museum and also claims to be his place of birth. But the town of Hico in Texas claims to be where Billy the Kid died, and that seems like total bullshit if you look it up. I mean, there's a lot of... Anyways, modern scholars Frank Barron and Dr. Leo Rookby believe the evidence points to the Helmstadt near Heidelberg as his most likely birthplace. So regardless, he was born in this region. He's a German dude, for sure. What we also know with certainty is that a student named Georges Helmstetter enrolled at Heidelberg University between 1483 and 1487. And this student, Georges, was exceptionally unusual. He refused to reveal his surname, which matches perfectly with what we know of Faust's secretive nature at that time. University records show that he was promoted to baccalaureus, which I'm pretty sure is the precursor to bachelor's, on July 12th, 1484, and to magister artium on March 1st, 1487, which I'm pretty sure is a master's degree. But did he work at Blizzard? He worked at Blizzard in QA. His name is Maldavius Figtree. That's a deep cut. Faust lived during a time when it seemed the world was being thrown between two very powerful forces. On one side, you had the church, or specifically the German Catholic Church. This thing had anchored itself in the past, clinging to tradition, ancient rites, and religious dogma, aka the veneration of pagan idols and the vestments of the church. The German Catholic Nation Church at that time wanted the world to remain firmly in a period in which they had unchallenged authority. You have to remember, this is the church. It's the church. Everything's the church. Your social standing, political standing, your learning, all that shit. You are part of the church. And if you're not, you're looked down upon by many. Now, the other side of this was the tide of Renaissance humanism, which sought to propel culture, art, and science into the future and break beyond the traditional conservatism of the German Catholic Church at that time. It was an all-out war of ideology. And in Germany, this clash would send shockwaves through society. The church saw a mortal threat to their authority in the new rising movement towards and educated in the natural philosophies like math. You see, arguably, during this time, the church maintained a monopoly on literacy, and therefore a monopoly on the dissemination of knowledge. And humanists preached literacy and enlightenment for every citizen, not just for God's chosen few. And it was in this incredibly unique mix of belief and skepticism that Faust's reputation would begin to take shape. It's believed he was born to God-fearing parents and even earned his degree at Heidelberg University in the study of divinity. He was a divinist theologian, my friends. Comment your opinions on that down below. Mr. Faust spent years poring over Holy Scripture, or the Holy Scripture was simply the first of what would become many areas of study in his hunt to understand the world. Of course, in regard to that, we can only speculate, but Faust would soon turn his attention towards topics that were deemed entirely perilous by the church. And I don't say that lightly. This guy said some really crazy shit. You ever heard of the miracles of Jesus Christ? Well, we'll get to that in a minute. Faust absorbed any knowledge he could relentlessly. He mastered the fields of medicine and mathematics before seeking knowledge from beyond and within the earth. Out to the stars, he studied astrology, and seeking to unlock the secrets of the earth, he dove into alchemy. Very Sagittarius of you, Dr. Faust. We have written on the script that it was astrology. I'm pretty sure it was astronomy. I think that might be a minor mistake. Whoops! Satchel, you bastard! I'm sorry! This is my friend Satchel. He is a living human from Missouri, but he's also taken the form of a rat. So he's loved by many and hated by both my two pugs over here, so he's a pretty good guy though, overall. The more Faust studied, the more he craved hidden, secret knowledge. How hermetic of him. Whether he was coaxed by demons in the shadows or simply blind to the dark side, he ventured further and further into that. By 1506, we have documented records showing Faust appearing as a performer of magical tricks and horoscopes in Gelnhausen. Then over the following 30 years, there are numerous similar records spread across southern Germany showing him working as a physician, a doctor of philosophy, an alchemist, a magician, an astrologer, and also a fraudster. He's almost always accused of fraud. Now you might think, person stepping on me in 1540, that after absorbing all of this knowledge, holy or unholy or everything in between, this Dr. Faust fella might finally be sated. No, absolutely not. If anything, with every book he read, every skill that he learned, every secret he unlocked, he only craved more. Very Sims 4 of him, in all honesty. So having a deep understanding of divinity and darkness, Faust would seek out the devil himself to continue or finish his quest for unlimited knowledge. And combining the many fields of study that he'd conquered, it's believed he successfully summoned Lucifer, or the devil, and brokered a deal in which he would trade his eternal soul in exchange for seemingly unlimited power. Very interesting, Dr. Faust. Thus begins the diabolic contract between Dr. Faust and the devil. As recorded in the 1587 Historia Vandi Johann Faustin, this contract was supposedly written in Faust's own blood and laid out terms that would govern his life for the next 24 years. For the contract, Faust would receive the devil's service for as long as he lives, any knowledge he requests from the devil, and the devil's sworn honesty. And in exchange, the devil would require Faust's soul to collect after 24 years, the contract written with Faust's blood, and Faust had to renounce his Christian faith. Unbelievable! So Faust, having struck a deal with the devil and with a demon by the name of Mephistopheles to serve him at his own beck and call, he has his own servant, Mephistopheles. Faust could now exploit this agreement to amass material wealth and use his newfound powers to elevate his reputation to the legendary status that it holds today. He got up to no good, all right, guys? This guy was a lunatic. In order to make money, Faust wasn't exactly content keeping his newfound power secret. He, perhaps driven by ego or maybe the genuine belief in his abilities, started publishing grimoires, which are magical instruction manuals, all that bore his name. And starting as early as 1501, works like Dr. Faustin's Dreyfacher Hollandvans and Geister Commando all appeared in print, all with new editions that were published in 1520, 1524, 1527, and 1540. And these weren't just legends told in taverns, they were actual books available for purchase, spreading the reputation of Faust across the German-speaking world. Bro signed a deal with the devil and became Brandon Sanderson, and or Stephen King, and or some other person. So Faust was, in a sense, reborn. Reborn being a saying or term used by Christians after undergoing a baptism. Faust had definitely gone through a baptism of a sort, just with an unholy power rather than a holy one. He signed a blood-laden contract and had a little buddy to follow him around called Mephistopheles. Now, in this unholy rebirth, Faust began going by multiple names related to his given name, Johann George Faustus. We have Georgius Velicus, the name he used while attending university, studying divinity and becoming a right old Christian theologian, Faustus the Younger, and John Faust. For the sake of simplicity, I will continue referring to him as Faust, just so you guys know. So his devil-backed rampage started relatively small, in the city of New Rupen. In the evenings, he would play cards with townspeople, and it seemed that he would always win. And according to one very disturbing rumor, we have a group of people all playing cards with Faust, and when one of the players dropped a card under the table, when bending over to retrieve it, the person saw that Dr. Faust had horse feet. How fucking scary is that? Imagine bending over and he's got some hairy legs with feet, cloven, not even cloven hooves, just hooves. What's your problem? I figured putting a little bandana on you would make you cute and nice and docile. But it seems to just have awoken the beast inside of you. And to indulge in luxuries, Mephistopheles, Faust's little buddy, would pilfer fine wines, sweet treats, and anything Faust desired from local aristocrats. By the way, if you go to sour.gg, you can pilfer some sweet treats from my website. I have my own candy company, if you guys didn't know. It's pretty awesome. We make our own candy. It only has 7 grams of sugar per serving, which is like 50% or 69% less than leading brands. And we actually use real sugar. It's just made the old-fashioned way. You don't need so much sugar to make something taste delicious. We also have this, which is a 1911. You can't buy it, but I thought it was just kind of cool to show you guys, to show you what kind of candy company we are. This is a real 1911. It's never been shot, and I never will shoot it. It's a cult. It's incredible. It was a gift. So yeah, go to sour.gg. We have a brand new website. I've been in Shopify CLI making it myself over the last few weeks. So if you guys like it, please let me know. I need validation badly. I'm a legitimate dev now, which is extremely busy and not that much fun. The candy company, though, releases 4 new flavors every single month. We have some extremely sour stuff coming soon and some very complex, interesting stuff coming soon as well. So go to the site. If you don't like what you see, then just give us your email and we will send you plenty of different stuff to choose from. So anyways, go to sour.gg, Sour Boys, it's my favorite company in the entire world. But Mr. Faust was aspiring to be more than a mere thief and swindler of gamblers. He expanded his wealth by selling horoscopes, naturally for a fee. His success in this venture was quite remarkable. So remarkable, I think I'm about to get into it. On February 23rd, 1520, official records show Faust was in Bamberg doing a horoscope for the bishop and the town itself, for which he received a substantial sum of 10 gulden. This isn't like back alley fortune telling, some random guy selling snake oil to a horny farmer. This guy's being paid a lot by church officials themselves for his astrological services. What in the fuck? How is that even legal? I thought astrology was the work of the devil! Faust's life would become filled with all of the commodities afforded to those with excess wealth. Every comfort, every luxury was absolutely his. He enjoyed everything in excess, like a high elf. Elegant clothing, fine wine, good food, beautiful women, and whatever else a rich motherfucker may have imagined in the 16th century. For years, he would offer his fortune-telling services for a fee of 10 gulden, and it seemed to be worth it for quite a few people. He had an uncanny knack for making predictions that seemed to be true or come true. And naturally, Faust's growing reputation came with witnesses who would document his strange behavior. Johannes Trithemius, another person named John, but slightly different, in a letter dated August 20th, 1507, warned his friend Johannes Verdung, a different guy named John, about a certain Georgius Sabellicus, one of Faust's aliases. And Johannes I described him as a trickster who blasphemously boasted he could easily reproduce all of the miracles of Christ. This is a real historical note of a guy being like, hey, watch out for this guy. He's a little wild. He just told me that he could easily reproduce all the miracles of Christ. You can do what? I mean, that's something you could get killed for. In the 16th century, they was burning women in the 15th century and 16th century in America, before it was America, obviously. Even more revealing is an account from Conrad Mutianus Rufus in 1513, who recounted meeting a chiromanticus, which is this, called Georgius Faustus Helmithius Heidelberg Genesis, which probably means the demigod of Heidelberg. Heidelberg is the university that he studied theology at. Rufus had overheard Faust's vain and foolish boasts in an inn in Erfurt, giving us a first-hand account of the man's arrogance. And another guy by the name of John, Johann Gast, a theologian as well, provided perhaps the most detailed eyewitness account sometime in the 1540s. What is poultry of a strange kind? I have no idea. That sounds really scary though. These little fuckers wouldn't make that good of a soup, would they? Scary little guys. Little rascals, man. What in the fuck? Just kidding, I'd eat that. I'd eat that for sure. Thank you to Helix for sponsoring this video. It is hot in Texas, and as the summer heats up, I struggle to stay cool when I'm sleeping at night, especially in a month like July. It's so hot. This was, of course, until I discovered Helix. I used to wake up sweaty, tossing and turning, disheveled. I first heard about Helix from some friends. So I decided to take the Helix sleep quiz, and I immediately was matched with the ultimate mattress for me. I'm a side sleeper, I sleep very hot, and I like a medium firm feel, and Helix absolutely nailed it. I placed the order, my mattress showed up at the door with free shipping. I unboxed it, and in minutes, I was laying on a comfy chunk of cool, amazing material. I don't overheat anymore, I wake up with less pain. It was a total upgrade, a complete, entire overhaul of my sleep life. They also have an awesome line of mattress toppers. Shout out to the Dual Comfort, and shout out to the Ergo line. Both them bad boys can add an extra layer of support and comfort and cooling. And that's helpful, especially in a hot summer month like July. And right now, Helix is offering 27% off your order site-wide if you click my link in the description. This is a part of their 4th of July exclusive, so click the link in the description or go to helixsleep.com/Oompaville and try something out today. And thank you to Helix Sleep for sponsoring this video. To many of his contemporaries, Faust's talents were nothing short of extraordinary, leaving many common citizens in total and complete awe. To others, however, he was an egotistical nuisance, constantly boasting about his accomplishments and successes. But still, some found him so insufferable and to be such a dickhead, so overbearing, that they went as far as to demand his departure from town. There came a week ago to Erfurt a certain chiromancer named Georgius Faustus Helmithius Heidelberg Genesis, a mere braggart and fool, if you'd ask me. The professions of this man and of all the fortune tellers are vain. Ooh. The rude people marvel at him. The priest should denounce him. I heard him swaggering at the inn. POV, my friends hear me swaggering at the inn. I did not reprove his boastfulness, for why should I bother about the foolishness of others? Hey man, First Amendment. First Amendment protections. They protect you from swaggering at the inn. Then we have the official reference to the time where he got 10 gulden from a f***ing bishop. Item 10 gulden given and presented to Dr. Faustus Philosophus in honor of his having cast for my gracious master of nativity or indicium, paid on Sunday after Scholastica by the order of the Reverend Decimus. People were so dumb back then, it sounds like they just made shit up all the time. That's just like what people did all day long, every single day, just made shit up. I think people still do that. We've also got this absolute gem. Today, Wednesday after St. Vitus 1528, one who calls himself Dr. Jorg Faustus or Heidelberg has been told to spend his penny elsewhere and has promised not to resent or mock such summons of the authorities. Once again, just making shit up. Faust's power and thus reputation would only grow through his career as lords and nobles, the very people from whom he would have his servant Mephistopheles steal, would be the ones lining up for his divinations and prophecies, earning him a place in courts all across Germany with aristocrats. I've never wanted to punch anyone in the face more than people who would refer to themselves as aristocrats. Stick 'em up, I've gotta say, stick 'em up. So with this newfound audience of German aristocrats, Faust would host dinner parties with wealthy merchants, and his performances at these events became legendary. I'm talking very legendary. During winter, when the ground was covered with frost and fresh fruit was impossible to obtain, Faust could make the sun shine warm enough to melt the ice and make the trees produce fruit so fresh and perfect that juice ran down your chin when bitten. And I remember Jesus and the fig tree, so that shit's blasphemous as f***. Or at least Faust would spin an illusion that made it appear the snow had melted and appear that the trees had borne fruit as a result of his wizardry. Also, he could court some bitches down in Boxburg, by the way. Illusion was a magic Faust would master, casting spells over groups to make them see whatever he willed into creation. And when Dr. Faust would visit the Count and Countess of Anhalt, he would conjure even more. The Countess of Anhalt was pregnant at the time, so Faust, knowing that she may experience cravings, asked her what she wished to eat and that he could fulfill her desires with his magical powers. The pregnant countess, who had been eating dry foods in the cold months of Germany, expressed a desire for fresh fruits, which in Boxburg was impossible to get in the winter. Faust would go to the window where he drew a circle and would conjure 3 decorated bowls filled with fruits. The first had cherries, apricots, apples, and peaches. The second had grapes and plums, and the third with green grapes still on the vine. After this, Faust stayed in Anhalt for a while, but when he was ready to leave the onset of spring, he wished to thank the Count and Countess for their hospitality. So like the David Blaine of the Renaissance, he guided them to a nearby hill near the castle grounds, where under moonlight, a new castle suddenly appeared in front of them. This was one of Faust's insane tricks. It was illuminated with hundreds of lights, and the sound of music and laughter emanated from it as they approached. Inside this new Faustian castle, musicians played harps, violins, and flutes while they feasted, danced, and drank to their heart's content. And after their enjoyment, the castle vanished as though it had never been there, leaving them alone on the quiet hilltop. You trying to make me strike you, ain't you? If I was hanging out with a guy and I was like, this guy's pretty cool, he might be a wizard. Or he might be magic or have some power of illusion or something like that. If he did any wizard shit, I'd strike him right in the face. I would strike him right in the fucking noggin, dude. Right in his fucking doink. Right in his fucking doink, brother. So, to conjure an illusion of a party in a castle is a pretty great David Blaine type. No, he's not the one who does Matt. He hurts himself and just like runs out of oxygen and stuff. Who's the one who floats? Who's the one who fucking floats? Sometimes in my dreams, I float like an inch off the ground. I fly around everywhere. It's so crazy. And I keep having a recurring dream of being on the bank of a pond. The pond I used to fish at when I was a child that I haven't been to in years. And just everywhere I step, there's snakes and they're biting me as I step through them. And the snakes, they bite me and they're poisonous and I fade and I get weak and it takes like 10 minutes for me to just slowly, I can't move. And I slowly fall into the snakes and I wake up. And it turns out my dad has the exact same dream. So that's not good. Something is wrong with us for sure. So yeah, to conjure up a fucking party castle, it's pretty cool, great feat, undoubtedly. And while the Count and Countess of Anhalt may have appreciated the night of merriment, not everyone would be so receptive to such Faustian magic. Dr. Faust would spend time in Erfurt, lecturing at the Collegium building about Greek poets. The lectures were reportedly so impressive that when he spoke, people from all levels of citizenry would crow the halls to listen. Students, citizens, and nobles all alike would pack the staircases and fill the windowsills in order to watch and see what Faust was doing. And while lecturing the crowd on Homer, not of Springfield, students requested him to conjure the heroes of ancient Greece, which he did. It's like documented, it's unbelievable. The legend says the heroes appeared in their armor, characters like Achilles, Ajax, Agamemnon, and even the Cyclops Polyphemus. They all appeared, and with Polyphemus, there were still human remains protruding from his mouth. Cyclops moment, this beast appearing in front of the students frightened them, and they would ask Faust to never repeat the experiment in the hall again. Funny part of the story is that Polyphemus reportedly resisted the first attempt to dispel him after eyeing the students hungrily. Of course he did! Wrote Homer from Springfield. And later tellings of Faust's story say that in a conversation with other scholars about the most beautiful woman in history, human history, when Helen of Troy is the topic of that conversation, the woman over whom the War of Troy was fought, Faust conjures her up to prove his point. Needless to say, acts like this seemingly necromancy, bringing the dead back to life for a crowd of impressionable students, doesn't exactly sit right with the church, okay? The famous Franciscan monk, Dr. Klinge, an acquaintance of Martin Luther, the man after whom Martin Luther King Jr. and his father were named, visited Dr. Faust in an attempt to bring him back to the side of God. And lo and behold, Faust refused to convert back to Christianity, with Faust saying that it would be dishonorable to his deal with the devil signed with his own blood. The devil had kept his side of the bargain, and so he would maintain his. Another account tells of Dr. Klinge visiting also in an attempt to prevent another man from selling his soul to the devil through Faust. But unfortunately, this doctor had arrived too late and the deal had already been struck. Either way, the monk would report this discovery, and at this point, Faust would be banished from Erfurt. And at perhaps the height of his rumored power, it was said that Faust could fly through the air with the aid of his demon servant Mephistopheles, his catamite. Mephistopheles was the servant that appeared as a dog that accompanied Faust, only taking the human form when Faust required him to do so. Faust also had this horse, which was also believed to be a demon or devil. And one witness who saw Faust leaving Boxburg Castle saw his carriage hitched to 4 black fiery horses that moved as fast as the wind, which kicked up glowing sparks that burned into the cobblestone. There are so many tales like this in association with this man, Faust, a real historical guy who actually existed. And Faust would find himself not just a subject of skepticism from the church, but an outright enemy. During a time when Christianity was predominant, despite the increasing divide due to the Protestant Reformation, both Catholics and Protestants shared the belief that the devil was no ally to humanity, and neither were those who'd pledged themselves to his service either in life or death. And for many years, critics had accused Faust of being a dishonest person, often labeling him a con man or fraud or charlatan. There are so many reports of him being a fraud. It's hilarious. To them, Faust was a simple criminal who had successfully pulled off the modern cliche, fake it till you make it. Now, however, he would face even greater scrutiny from higher authorities, with his reputation growing. A letter was written by, guess the name down below, Johannes Trithemius, the abbot of the Spanheim Monastery, to his friend, warning him of Faust. He referred to him as George Sibelius, a man who called himself the Prince of Necromancers. He called him a vagabond, an impostor, a rogue, and a charlatan. Also, the town of Wittenberg had expelled Faust after discovering his pact with the devil. Yet another place joining the growing list of places where Faust couldn't return to. And according to Trithemius' earlier account from 1507, we have the sodomite allegations with a little bit of light shed on those. Apparently, Faust had fled from a teaching position in Sickingen after indulging in sodomy with his male students, evading punishment by a timely escape. That is fucking crazy. So we have this absolutely wild story of this guy who signed a deal with the devil, but the historical record doesn't always show people calling him a fraud. There are plenty of examples of it, but the historical record does show that Faust was not always viewed as a charlatan. He was viewed professionally by quite a few people, and there's documentation to prove this. The Tübingen professor Joachim Camerarius in 1536 recognized Faust as a respectable astrologer, and physician Philip Bogarty of Worms in 1539 praised Faust's medical knowledge. So a bit of a contradiction, obviously, but it suggests that while he was extremely controversial and a sodomite necromancer, he also possessed genuine skills that impressed professionals and scholars of the time, some learned men. So that's a lot of crazy shit. But I think the most bizarre documented incident occurred when Faust was arrested in Battenberg. According to Johannes Veer in De Prestigiis Daemonum, another guy named Johannes. It's written in 1568, okay? Not that long after Faust died. Faust had recommended that the local chaplain named Dorstinius use arsenic to remove his facial stubble, and the chaplain smeared his face with poison, quite literally just poison, losing not only his beard, but much of his skin as well, and Veer claims he heard the story directly from the disfigured victim himself. So a bit of a prankster as well, Faust was. Here, apply this salve. It's called Nair. Put it on your face, see what happens. Boom! Arsenic poisoning. Face melted. What does the Holy Relic think about that shit? Nothing. He's inanimate. Within Wittenberg, one of the places he was kicked from, a guy by the name of Philip Melanchthon, a famous humanist who was also a close friend of Martin Luther and part of the growing Protestant Reformation, declared that if Faust ever returned after his being exiled, or if he was caught summoning spirits, he would demand his execution. So yeah, Protestants with a W there. But the Protestant side wasn't the only side that would see Dr. Faust as an absolute blight. The Catholic side also did not like him very much. He stood for everything that they didn't. And not to mention, this is the time of burning witches and shit as well. This is the time of stamping out anything and everything wicked, including math learners and Protestants, but specifically anything wicked. Witches, warlocks, sodomites, necromancers, you name it, they were stomping it out. You see, while Faust had been studying theology and divinity at Heidelberg, a new book was being written by Heinrich Kramer that would transform the landscape of witch persecution across Germany and across the world. In 1486, the Malleus Maleficarum, more commonly known as the Hammer of Witches, was published and contained within it a systematic method of rooting out and killing witches and anyone who may have aligned themselves with the devil. Anyone could accuse anyone of heresy, witchcraft, or whatever they could dream up. They proceeded with the mentality that because of the nature of the enemy, any witness, no matter his credentials, may testify against the accused. The accused would then be tortured until confession, which, as you can probably tell, that's a flawed system. That doesn't work that well, and a lot of innocent people got killed and murdered and splayed and flayed. And while the vast majority of those persecuted and executed by this rising Inquisition were women who had done little more than just live alone and trying to be independent and cultivate medical herbs, or maybe just gave a man a dirty look, the Hammer of Witches devoted a significant attention to a more dangerous category: learned male practitioners like Faust. What the Malleus Maleficarum says about these male practitioners is something that will sound fairly familiar. If we go to part 2, chapter 3 on page 105, it states the following. And what are those magicians whom we generally call necromancers, who are often carried through the air by devils for long distances? Ah! Faust did that shit. And sometimes they even persuade others to go with them on a horse, which is not really a horse, but a devil in that form. So we have Faust, got a horse, the dog, Mephistopheles, his servant, and Faust was also rumored to take flight and in his possession of fiery horses that ran as fast as the wind. What a learned male practitioner I feel that is. The Hammer of Witches also states that archer wizards pose an especially great threat to Christianity, with part 3, question 34, stating, here we must consider archer wizards, who constitute the graver danger to the Christian religion in that they have obtained protection on the estates of nobles and princes who receive, patronize, and defend them. These wizards would find allies in the highest courts of all the land, people who should be of the church, of faith, and who might cast off those who may practice black magic or align themselves with the devil, but they didn't. Faust mirrors this tale of the Hammer of Witches perfectly. Faust stayed in Anhalt, remember, with the pregnant countess and the count for an entire season after impressing them with his conjurations. Dr. Johann George Faust represented everything the Malleus Maleficarum was designed to destroy, and multiple witnesses across 30 years describe his magical performances, his blasphemous boasts, and his supernatural claims. You think this man's life would end in an inquisition, but no. He's a learned man. He likes alchemy. He decided to make what seemed like either A, a meth lab, or B, a pipe bomb to mail to that junior mayor that denied him access to his city and called him a necromancer and sodomite. The real Dr. Johann George Faust story ends not at the hands of an inquisition, like I said, but in a laboratory explosion that seems to confirm every supernatural tale told of him. On that fateful night in 1540 in Staufen am Breisgau, witnesses reported finding Faust's body in the Hotel zum Löwen, which means lion, in such a grievously mutilated state that even his death became a legend. According to the theologian Johann Gast, writing in 1548, Faust had suffered a dreadful death and his corpse exhibited supernatural behavior. Like I mentioned in the intro, his body would repeatedly turn to face back down towards the earth no matter how many times he was repositioned. There are so many bizarre details that have been interpreted and reported by clerical and scholarly enemies of Faust that there is a level of proof that this man was a bad, bad man. And that maybe his death was the devil coming to collect his due. So that some blew himself up in a fucking medieval meth lab. Sorry, a Renaissance meth lab. Was he real? Was he fake? I'm not really one to say. There is an undoubtable historical Faust that does exist. There is references to him everywhere. There's also quite a few other Faust-like characters that may or may not be him or related to him. There's multiple people that modern historians think could be him, and there were many people being documented that all the stories were kind of conflated because of a book that was published in 1587 called the Faust Book. Philip Camerarius claimed in 1602 that he had personally heard tales of Faust from people who had met him face to face, but by then the Faust book of 1587 had been published, making it impossible to separate historical anecdotes from legend and rumor. The Faust book is full of bullshit. Honestly, a lot of what we're talking about stems from the Faust book. But what we can say for certainty is that Dr. Johann George Faust was a real man. There are university records, city archives, and episcopal payments, witness testimonies, published grimoires, and more. Documented expulsions. All these things point to a man who lived, breathed, and ultimately died in a spectacular fashion that would ensure his legend would outlive him by centuries. He fucking blew himself up in a meth lab. He made a deal with the devil. He definitely was a necromancer, and he probably was a sodomite. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. If you want to see the full uncensored version of this video, go to gump.club to get some cool behind the scenes stuff, and go to sour.gg to buy some candy, and I will see you all in the next video. Leave some ideas down below, by the way, for what you want to see next.